Good morning and welcome back to our, hopefully you watched Sunday morning's version of this, again for this improvisation on America, or as we know here in the United States, My Country 'Tis of Thee, or if you are an Anglophile or an English national, your national anthem, God Save the Queen, or King, depending on what year you're in. So improvisation has a very long and rich history in all of music. In fact, if you were a musician in the Renaissance, medieval, and early Baroque eras, if you were any type of musician, some sort of improvisation was nearly expected. As a musician, you were highly educated in music theory, and therefore you knew the rules and how to break them and such. So thinking back to early Romantic period, and maybe even to the classical with Beethoven and Mozart, when you're thinking of concerti for solo instrument, be it piano or violin, oftentimes the first movement would have a cadenza. And within that cadenza, there was no music written by the composer. The performer himself, mostly himself at the time, was expected to improvise on the themes that had been given in the previous part of that movement. So people like Beethoven, most notably, came to note not as composers, but as performers. So they would oftentimes play other people's concerti, improvise their own cadenza, maybe sometimes in their style, maybe sometimes in the style of the piece, and that's how they gained their name. Liszt kind of is one of the most notable of these, and he was somewhat of a rock star in terms of giving concerts and improvising, and eventually improvisation gave way to written composition. Even singers, to a certain extent, were expected to do this in the Baroque era. Now, in modern times, improvisation has kind of fallen by the wayside in terms of trained musicians, to where really only church organists and jazzy musicians really have the authoritative monopoly on improvisation. As organists, we oftentimes have a three-stanza hymn, and maybe the choir didn't drink their coffee in the morning and are having trouble getting down the aisle. Oh my goodness, we're at the end of stanza 2 and they're nowhere near the stalls. Well, yeah, we got to improvise in that case. Sometimes it's just easier for very small liturgical coverings of silence to have an improvised little section and such. And of course, jazz musicians who, yeah, they've got the cheat sheet, which shows the cymbals and usually the chorus, but throughout you're improvising on the chorus. So maybe you're comping or accompanying a solo person, or maybe it's your turn, regardless of instrument, to make up your own melodic line of improvisation. In terms of outside of those two realms, in modern day, improvisation kind of is not around too much anymore. Yeah, you might be able to find it, maybe some it's unintentional at a concert. You may recall a YouTube video of a violinist giving a concert and a cell phone going off, and he proceeds to then improvise on that ringtone. So bring that kind of full circle to what's going on today. I decided as a neat little treat to end our little series here that I would just improvise on these on America. So what I've done is I've created 6 variations. You may say, well, how can you plan this out? It's not a real improvisation. You're entirely correct. However, this is going on the internet and also has my name attached to it. So I want to make sure that it at least sounds decent. And if it doesn't, well, shoot, I'll just go ahead and redo it and we'll still call it a first take, but ideally 1 take here. So 6 variations. The first will be a bicenium, very common to begin a Baroque partita or variation set. Only 2 voices, so the 2 voices will be in the hands here. The second will be a canon, i.e. the first voice comes first and the second voice follows. It's a little dissonant, but not too much with this tune. The third one will kind of be like a funeral march. We'll take it into a minor key. The fourth, I'll call it the circus movement. Movement 5 will be retrograde, or I'll play the tune backwards. So if you're ever listening to themes and variation in the classical realm and you can't find the tune in one of the variations, oftentimes it's being played in retrograde. So we'll call that retrograde misterioso a la Messiaen. And then our 6th and final movement will be, I think probably the longest of all of these, a toccata, in which we will begin with nice consonant harmonies, and eventually we'll get to the end and we're going to throw the rules of theory completely out of the door. So here we go, improvisations on America.